compete as a woman athlete. This is due to damage primarily by radiation. It can also be chemicals to the pituitary adrenal thyroid axis. These are 3 glands in your neck region, and they control information flow to the brain and processes. Now, this is happening in wildlife and human populations all over the world, primarily from the effects of the depleted uranium weapons that have been used globally since 1973. Until 1999, gender testing was mandatory for female athletes at the Olympics, but the screenings were dropped. One of the reasons for dropping the screenings was that not all women have standard female chromosomes now. This is all the long-term global effects of war. This is an image, the first image ever captured a year ago of ovulation. And this is a woman's ovary during surgery. When a woman is ready to ovulate, or an animal, a sort of a follicle or a blister forms, and that's the human egg emerging from the woman's ovary. That is the real target of wars now. It is reproduction. In a Navajo study, just published in December 2007, a Native American woman studied what happens to pregnant mice exposed to depleted uranium at EPA standards, which the government says are safe for us to drink. And what she discovered is that there are a reduced number of follicles that cause infertility, subtle changes in the tissues of the uterus, and we know that many women exposed to depleted uranium are having endometriosis problems, and they have to have their uterus removed. And also, depleted uranium in drinking water at levels that the government says are safe cause reproductive cancers. Now, diabetes in 1950 was extremely rare. The rates were very low. But when bomb testing started, diabetes mortality went up and up and up. They stopped testing and replaced the bomb testing fallout with nuclear power plants. And in 1991, the U.S. introduced depleted uranium in Iraq, and diabetes mortality has just shot up. This is all over the world. What they're doing now is using natural environmental cycles to deliver their nuclear war. These are the bombing strikes, the airstrikes in Iraq and Afghanistan, 2004 to 2007. So this is 2004, 5, 6, and 7. And the blue line is Iraq, the number of airstrikes, and the red one is the number of airstrikes in Afghanistan. And this occurred in the month of July, which is the peak rainout or monsoon season in Afghanistan. They are also bombing in the winter monsoon in January, and that is causing a much more efficient nuclear war, a higher rainout of uranium into the environment. And in this period, in 2007, diabetes rates in China increased from about 3% of the population to over 20%. That was a huge increase in diabetes in China from bombing in Afghanistan and Iraq. And of course, this is all part of depopulation, reducing the population numbers, but also causing reproductive problems in the targeted populations. In the Tulsa, Oklahoma newspaper in 1946, let's see, just a 1948, the Tulsa Tribune had an article called "Radioactivity Lingers Longer in a Water Blast." It said, quote, "It has been suggested, however, that in the absence of a large body of water near a city, a bomb could be exploded in the middle of rain clouds. The dispersion of fission products over the ground might then be even more complete than in an underwater burst." And I want to tell you that President Obama got the Nobel Peace Prize for expanding nuclear war. The Nobel Peace Prize is not for peace, it's for war. And that's why Dr. Mahathir will probably have a very difficult job winning the Nobel Peace Prize, although I can't think of anyone who deserves it more. Now, what has this done in Afghanistan to reproduction? The death rates of pregnant women globally in more developed countries is about 1 to 12 women per 100,000. In Afghanistan now, the death rates are 1,600 women per 100,000. But in Badakhshan, in a corner of Afghanistan where the heaviest bombing is occurring, the death rates in pregnant women are 6,507 pregnant women per 100,000. That's a horrendous testimony to what we are doing to Afghanistan now. Mr. Santora in the New York Times in June 11, 2006 said, "Diabetes is one of the biggest health catastrophes the world has ever seen." He said, it's Dr. Martin Salink, the president-elect of the International Diabetes Federation. He said the diabetes epidemic will overwhelm health care resources everywhere if governments do not wake up now and take action. And what is happening is uranium is being used. They've known that it's a cause of diabetes since the Hiroshima and Nagasaki studies. It's being used to attack pregnant women, especially in countries where they don't receive good health care during pregnancy, produce very weak babies. And that little baby born in Sumatra recently, who weighed 8.5 kilos, is not a healthy baby. His mother was a diabetic mother, and it looks like she probably didn't receive very good health care. This is happening all over the world. In 1986, the global diabetes population, this is around the time of Chernobyl, was 30 million. By 2006, it had increased to 230 million. That's over a 767% increase in 20 years. There has to be an environmental cause when it's global, and we know what the cause is now. It's the uranium. And the UN has projected that by 2025, there will be 350 million diabetics around the world. In China, in 1978, diabetes was in 0.6% of the population. By 1995, it had increased to 1.5%. By 2000, it increased to 2.4%. And as I mentioned, during that bombing in Afghanistan in 2007, the Chinese diabetes rate increased to 20.98%. They're downwind and under the cloud from the uranium. Also, 25% of the Chinese population today is obese. And what I'm talking about now has to be